Have you ever been haunted by guilt? A mistake, a poor decision, or a moment of weakness that remains etched in your memory? It's a feeling we're all too familiar with, a shadow that lingers, a whisper that echoes in the quiet moments. It's guilt, a common human emotion that we all experience. Guilt can feel like a heavy burden. It tugs at our conscience, reminding us of moments we'd rather forget. Yet, as uncomfortable as it can be, guilt isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be a tool for personal growth if we learn to face it head-on. That's right, guilt can be our teacher, guiding us towards better choices and a deeper understanding of ourselves. Now, you might be wondering, how can guilt, something that often feels so negative, be a tool for growth? Well, it's all about perspective. Guilt is a signal that we've acted against our values. It's our conscience telling us, hey, that wasn't cool, you can do better. And while it's not pleasant, it's an opportunity for self-reflection and change. But how do we go about facing guilt? How do we turn this uncomfortable emotion into a catalyst for growth? Well, one approach comes from an ancient philosophy known as Stoicism. Stoicism teaches us to confront our actions with clarity and honesty. It encourages us to appreciate the lessons within our past actions, rather than shying away from them. By facing our guilt, we can learn from our mistakes and grow stronger. It's about taking ownership, making amends where possible, and committing to do better. So, instead of running from guilt, we can turn around and face it. But how exactly do we do that? Well, stay tuned because that's exactly what we're going to explore next. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers a framework for dealing with guilt and using it as a stepping stone for growth. This philosophy, born in the bustling markets of ancient Greece, thrives on the idea of accepting and learning from our past actions. It emphasizes that we are not defined by our mistakes, but how we respond to them. Think of it like this. Imagine a man named Alex. Alex is an artist, a wonderfully creative soul who let his passion guide his every stroke. But one day, in his quest for perfection, he accidentally spilled a pot of paint on a client's expensive canvas. Overcome with guilt, he could have let this incident eat away at his confidence. He could have let it overshadow his talent and passion. But instead, Alex chose to see this as a learning curve, a stepping stone for growth. He embraced his guilt, not as a crippling emotion, but as a teacher. He accepted his mistake, apologized sincerely, and worked tirelessly to make it right. He used this experience to fine-tune his craft, to be more careful, more mindful. Alex embodied the Stoic approach. The Stoics believed that guilt is not a punishment but a signal, a beacon that guides us towards rectification and growth. They encourage us to face our guilt, to understand its roots, and to learn from it. It's about turning that negative feeling into a positive force, a catalyst for personal development. We all make mistakes. We all have instances in our lives that lead to guilt. But the question is, do we let it consume us, or do we use it as a stepping stone? Do we let it define us, or do we learn from it and move forward? The Stoic approach is not about ignoring or suppressing guilt. It's about acknowledging it, understanding it, and then using it as a tool for growth. It's about turning guilt from a hindrance into a helper, from a roadblock into a roadmap. This approach doesn't just help us deal with guilt, but transforms it into a tool for personal growth. Facing guilt head-on might seem challenging, but with these simple steps, it becomes a lot more manageable. Let's break it down. First and foremost, acknowledge your guilt. It's like the elephant in the room. You can't address it until you recognize it. Acknowledging guilt doesn't mean accepting blame or feeling shame. It simply means recognizing this emotion exists within you. Moving on, the next step is to understand its source. It's like a detective story where you're both the detective and the suspect. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What actions led to this guilt? Was it a mistake, a poor choice, or a violation of personal values? Understanding the source of guilt enables us to address the root cause, not just the symptoms. Now, here comes the plot twist. Instead of wallowing in guilt, we learn from it. Mistakes are our greatest teachers after all. They show us what not to do, guiding us towards better decisions in the future. So take a moment to reflect on your guilt. What can it teach you? How can it guide your future actions? And the final step, drumroll please, let it go. Holding on to guilt is like carrying a heavy backpack. The longer you hold it, the heavier it feels. But here's the secret. You have the power to take it off. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or ignoring your actions. It means accepting that you made a mistake, learning from it, and moving forward. It's about growth, not punishment. Remember, guilt is a natural human emotion. It's not a life sentence. It's a sign that you're capable of empathy, of recognizing your actions and their impacts. And that's a beautiful thing. By following these steps, we begin to transform guilt from a burden into a catalyst for self-improvement. As we start to face our guilt, we also start to see our personal growth. This growth might not be visible overnight, but with time, we begin to notice subtle shifts in our thoughts, feelings, and actions. We become more self-aware, empathetic, and resilient. Let's delve into the realm of self-awareness. When we face our guilt, we are essentially taking a deep dive into our psyche, unearthing our deepest fears and insecurities. This is a journey that many avoid, yet it holds immense potential for personal growth. By confronting our guilt, we are opening doors to understand our motivations, our desires, and our blind spots. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, each layer revealing a new facet of our personality. Now consider empathy. When we face our guilt, we often find ourselves in the shoes of those we may have wronged. We get a glimpse of their pain, their disappointment, their feelings. This newfound understanding can be a powerful catalyst for compassion. The guilt we felt transforms into empathy, and this empathy fuels our growth. Take, for instance, the story of a young man named John. John had been unkind to a friend in a moment of anger. This act of unkindness filled him with guilt. But instead of running away from this guilt, he faced it. He put himself in his friend's shoes. He felt the pain his words had caused. This empathy led him to apologize sincerely and mend their friendship. John's guilt helped him grow as a person, making him more considerate and understanding. And finally, resilience. Each time we face our guilt, we are training ourselves to endure discomfort. We are teaching ourselves that it's okay to make mistakes, as long as we learn from them. This resilience, this ability to bounce back, is an invaluable asset in our personal growth journey. So, guilt, when faced head-on, becomes not a foe, but a friend on our journey of personal growth. Just like John, we can turn our guilt into a stepping stone, propelling us on our path of self-improvement. It all starts with the courage to face our guilt and the wisdom to learn from it. Facing guilt head-on is not a one-time process, but a continuous journey of self-improvement. Let's recap. We've unmasked guilt, explored the Stoic approach to handling it, and shared steps to confront it directly. The beauty of Stoicism is that it encourages us to view our actions with clarity, to learn from them, and to use these lessons as stepping stones on our path to personal growth. Remember, guilt is not a shackle. It's an opportunity to reflect, learn, and evolve. It's a signal that we care about doing what's right, and that's a virtue. So let's not run away from it, but face it head-on, armed with the wisdom of Stoicism. Remember, guilt is not a life sentence, but a stepping stone to growth. Thank you for joining us in this journey. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more insights on personal growth. And tell us, which Stoic practices will you incorporate into your life?